The Alric McKenzie Show starts right now.
My daughter Jasmine was diagnosed with a rare liver disease in 2016. It can only be described as a story of hope, determination, and love. My name is Jessica Dunn.
Show inspiration, motivation, one vision, hope to a new generation. Together we can live and learn. Yes, we're one family on the Alric Show.
Jasmine was born on March 5, 2016 to Jessica and Javian Dunn. At 4 months old, she was diagnosed with a rare liver disease. Jessica is here with us to take us through the moments. Hi Jessica, how are you doing?
Hi Alric.
Right, now this is your first television interview since the case with Jasmine, your daughter, yeah?
Yes.
How are you feeling?
A little nervous.
It's nervous.
Yes.
Right. Why are you now willing to share her story, on TV? Why now? Why this time?
It's not that we weren't willing. We were always trying to get, when we were trying to get help for her, we approached every angle. We tried everything we could possibly think of. We approached the television stations, and most of them would tell us that, well, it's only 2, but they told us that they don't cover that kind of thing, and they told us who to contact, and we contacted who they told us to contact, and they basically just kept telling us that they can't help us.
Wow. Wow. Well, maybe you should have contacted me, but that's fine. That's fine. We're here now. Now, take me back to the earlier years, Jessica, when you met Javian, your husband. What year you guys got married?
We got married in 2010.
What is that like? Meeting Javian and starting a union.
It was good, we met in early 2009, and it was good.
Yeah,
it was good.
And still very good.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you tell me about your first child.
Okay, Jada, we had her in 2011. She's 6 now, she's going to be 7.
And then you got pregnant with Jasmine, how long after? What year?
In 2015.
Right. Now, what was the pregnancy like with Jasmine?
With Jasmine, it was pretty much a normal pregnancy. I got a lot of heartburn, the regular things, same things I got with Jada. There wasn't much difference in the pregnancy, really. If anything, I had complications with Jada more than Jasmine, because I had to be admitted when I was pregnant with Jada at about 7 months during the pregnancy. It turned out to be nothing, but I wasn't admitted at all with Jasmine. It was a full-term pregnancy.
Everything perfectly fine.
I wouldn't say perfectly fine, but normal.
Normal.
Every woman has complications. Well, not necessarily complications, but problems during pregnancy. You have the little sicknesses, and so just the regular stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary happened with her.
When did things begin to be out of the ordinary for you and Jasmine?
She was a few weeks old. She was a few days old. I noticed her eyes looked slightly yellow. It was so light, I was the only one who noticed. They asked me before we were discharged from the hospital after she was born if I noticed any jaundice, any yellowing of any part of her. But at that time she was mostly sleeping, so I told them no, I hadn't noticed it. And then a few days after that, I saw a very slight yellow. It was very light. Nobody else saw it. I showed everybody, I asked everybody, nobody else saw it. So I just said, okay. The nurses used to come and check up on her and me after birth, and I showed one of them at one point, and they said, yes, I see it's very slight, but it doesn't look like anything that would cause a concern. So they said, told us regular, they actually said that carrying them in the sun doesn't work anymore, just continue to breastfeed her and
It doesn't
watch
work
it.
anymore.
They said it's not really recommended
Oh, okay.
as much. I didn't get why, but that's what that nurse told me, that it wasn't really recommended. So we just continued to watch it, and over time, it was still very light. Over time, it got a little bit worse. When she was 6 weeks, we took her for her 6 weeks checkup, and the doctor said, yeah, she sees it was still very light then. So she sees it is very light, and she doesn't think it's anything to worry about. She said that she thought it could be possibly breast milk jaundice, and the only way to get rid of it would have been to stop breastfeeding her for a few days, and she didn't recommend that. So just continue to breastfeed her, and it should go away in time. It didn't go away.
It got worse.
It kept getting worse. And so because she said it was breastfeeding jaundice and I was still breastfeeding,
Right.
I didn't think anything of it, you know? And then she started getting yellow, and then her urine
skin began
was
to get yellow too?
Yes, and her urine was yellow, the darkest yellow. This was at almost 3 months, I believe, or about 3 months. And so it was about time for her next checkup, so we took her back to the doctor, and that's when they sent her to be admitted. I really don't usually talk about this.
Sorry. Now, during this time, she started to get yellow, urine, her skin, her eyes. What was your husband saying during this time? What were his concerns?
We both noticed it, and as I said, it was getting worse. And, you know, we were saying that we weren't sure. We were on the same page basically. This is, you know, the doctor said that it was breastfeeding jaundice, so it was probably from the breastfeeding, and we shouldn't worry about it. And then when it came time for her checkup, we decided, you know, it was a day before her checkup when we noticed the urine getting really dark. It didn't all come on at once, but the day before her checkup was supposed to be,
Right.
or a week before, somewhere around there. So that is when we decided that, okay, when the urine was the last thing to get the darkest.
Dark, yeah.
So when the urine started to get dark, that is when we decided that
Hey.
this looks like it's getting too bad. And we would take her for walks in the sun up until then, even though they said that it is not recommended anymore. And we took her for walks, and we just continued.
Right. On the day when you took her to the hospital and she was admitted, what were the doctors saying why they're admitting her?
They said that they asked a lot of questions. If her tummy was swollen, how long she's been jaundiced. They said that it could be multiple things, and they had to run tests to find out what it could have been. But she was severely jaundiced at the time, and they needed to admit her to do the tests and try and find out what.
What were the tests that were done, and what were the results?
When she was admitted, they did a biopsy. It took a long time for us to get the results. But they did blood tests, and her liver function tests were elevated. The numbers were higher than they should have been. So they did liver function tests, a part of the blood test, bilirubin tests. Everything was elevated, and they did the biopsy. When we finally got the biopsy results about a month later, they told us that she had what's called biliary atresia. It's a rare disease, and that it's not something that they could treat. That the final diagnosis, the final treatment for that would be a liver transplant,
Wow.
which is not done in Jamaica.
All right. We take a break. When we come back, Jessica, her family and friends took action to save baby Jasmine's life.
The Alex Show. The Alex Show.
Welcome back to the show. Jessica Dunn tells us more about her daughter Jasmine's battle with a rare liver disease. Jessica, now the doctors gave you the diagnosis. It was now time to take action because no matter what, baby Jasmine must stay here with you. What is your first course of action?
Well, we did our research on the disease and it was confirmed for us that the only outcome to save her life would be a liver transplant. So we immediately tried to find hospitals abroad that did transplants. We tried to find hospitals that had funding options, you know, because it's a very expensive procedure. And when we couldn't find anywhere that offered funding options for that in particular, we found places that offered funding but not for solid organ transplant. So the little light that we had, you know, that little bit of hope, it was just snatched away. So after we couldn't find anywhere that offered funding, we tried finding out the cost of it, the procedure. And
what was that cost like?
There were only a few hospitals that were able to actually give us a cost. Few that did were ranging between 200,000 US and 800,000 US.
So you turned to social media, you turned to Jamaica.
Right.
What was that like?
We received a lot of help, really and truly. I mean, it wasn't enough to get to what we needed, but we got a lot of good feedback and we got help. People offering suggestions as to hospitals that might be able to help us, and people giving us different methods to try, natural methods, telling us to pray, people keeping us in their prayers. We got a lot of support from the public. So we found that somebody could give her a piece of theirs, and we started doing more research on that. We went and found out our blood types, and you know, we didn't know much about the whole blood type thing then, so she was A and dad was A, so we said, all right, daddy can do it then. But that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. There's certain types that can give to certain types. And
how did you explain all of this to Jada?
That's funny because we didn't have to explain it to her. When the day Jasmine was actually admitted, we took them both for checkups because Jada was due her checkup about the same time.
Right.
And so when we took Jasmine for the checkup and then they sent her to be admitted, Jada was there for the checkup, so she knew that something was wrong. She listened and she heard everything the doctor was saying, and she came back home and she told her grandparents that, Grandma, she said, Grandma, Jasmine's sick. Something wrong with her liver. She just listened to what everybody was saying, and that's all we could really explain to her, that yes, she's sick.
Wow. Now, one of the things that could help Jasmine would be that Right, one of the things that could help Jasmine would be that she could get piece of a liver.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, we didn't get confirmation until we were actually away, and that I was able to donate to her, because there are a lot of tests that have to be done, a lot of tests, you know, blood tests
that you had to do.
Blood tests, there were questionnaires to fill out about my health and my health history. You basically just have to be healthy. You have to be healthy in the first place, and then you can't be overweight. There are a lot of factors. They did heart tests, they did what else did they do on me? They tested everything, basically.
Now this was your biggest hope yet.
Yes.
And you're holding on to that.
Yes.
What was the procedure like?
As in actually donating?
Right.
The procedure, I don't really remember much, but I think they just took a piece I don't remember if it was the left or the right, but they took a segmental lobe, and that's what Jasmine got. So they did, after all the tests confirmed that I could do it, and I did it. And it was painful afterwards, but even with all the pain, I still would have done it again if I could.
Were you also putting your life at risk by doing this surgery?
Yes, well, naturally, when you go to do an operation, they tell you that once you're under the anesthesia, there's a possibility that you won't wake up. You know, they could cut you and something could go wrong. But I just prayed. I had faith and I had hope. Stayed positive. I just thought of the outcome and what I wanted and what could possibly happen.
We take a break. When we come back, baby Jasmine is now 1 year and 10 months old. We talk about her recovery on the next side of the break.
The Alric Show. The Alric Show.
Welcome back to the show. We now talk about Jasmine's recovery. Now, Jessica, what was it like in the hospital for Jasmine and for yourself, especially when you now learned that the operation was a success?
I was in a lot of pain. I didn't get to see her for the first few days because I couldn't move and they couldn't move her. But I was actually out of the hospital within a week. You know, I was still in pain, still barely walking, but I got to see her, and even though she was covered in tubes, but she was doing well. You know, at first she was doing well. There was nothing negative the doctors had to say. Everything was going well, and that was just a big relief.
So that the yellowing of the skin and
immediately
the eyes
gone.
Immediately gone.
Well, I can't say immediately because I saw her a week later or a few days later. So, but when I saw her, she was clear.
Right.
She had a regular complexion.
Despite the pain that you were in, describe the joy that you felt.
Well, I did get to hold her the day I saw her, so, you know, and it was good to see that she no longer looked sick. It's a joy that you can't describe. You know, I was really relieved and just happy to know that everything went well.
How long was it, the entire ordeal from the time of diagnosis to the time of surgery? About how long it took to reach to that stage?
Well, she was diagnosed in about July, and
It's July of what year?
2016, and she got the transplant done in December of 2016, so maybe about 6 months until surgery. But the only reason why surgery was able to happen so quickly is because while we were here, when she went for a checkup here, she was going for a weekly checkup, she went for a checkup and she had to be admitted again, and the doctors told us straight, they said, you need to get her help immediately, as soon as you can, because she's getting worse. She was at a very critical stage. So we made a few calls, contacted one of the hospitals we were already communicating with, told them what was happening, and they were compassionate enough and they said, all right, well, we're not going to let her die and not try to do something about it. They said, bring her and we'll talk about costing and everything after.
Wow. So these days, what's it like at home with Jasmine, Jada, Daddy? What's it like at home?
She's a normal kid, you know, don't want to eat, telling you no for everything. You know.
No, mommy.
She and Jada get in arguments all the time, but even when they're fighting, you know, they're having their little arguments. If I decide that I'm going to separate them because they're fighting, the two of them are stretching for each other and screaming each other's name, and you know, they love each other so much. From the day we got back, Jasmine wouldn't stop running behind Jada and calling her name. She kept saying, Jada, Jada. And Jada said to me, Mommy, why does she keep calling my name? So there, it's you know, it's like having two regular kids. Just have to watch certain things with Jasmine, and she can really become sick at any time, so we just have to look out.
Right. So you have to do constant medical checkups?
Yes.
How often?
Right now she's going monthly. She has to go monthly to do blood tests and just a regular examination to make sure that everything's going well.
And she's on medication?
Yes.
And how long will she be on these medications?
She gets medication daily, and she'll be on these medications for the rest of her life to help prevent her body from rejecting the liver.
Well, what would you like to say to your friends, your family, to Jamaica, to everybody, the hospitals, the nurses, the doctors who helped to make things possible for Jasmine?
All I can say is thank you, but I feel like thank you isn't even enough for all the support and the help that we got. You know, people we didn't know were contacting us, trying to help us, and we really appreciate it. We're really grateful for the support. Even to this day, we have people checking in on Jasmine, and everybody is overjoyed that she's healthy, you know, that she's doing well.
Well, I must tell you that your strength is admirable. It is a tower of strength, very strong tower of strength. And I admire you for this, and you're staying strong. You're staying strong for your daughter, your husband, baby Jada, and for your family as well. I mean,
couldn't have done it without all the support that I had.
Couldn't have.
My husband was there, and when we were in the hospital, he had to be taking care of both of us, back and forth from my room to Jasmine's room. And you know, as I said, even when I was discharged, I still couldn't even walk properly. It was very painful, and so he was taking care of both of us.
Good husband.
Yes.
What would you like to say to him?
I guess thanks, you know, really appreciate it. He'd tell me that there's no need to thank him. So I'm really glad that he was there for everything, and that he was there supporting us, and you know, I'm glad that he was able to be there.
So what would you like to say to persons who are going through various challenges, maybe not necessarily a case similar to yours, but any hardship? What would you like to say to them?
Focus on the outcome that you'd like, you know, try and stay positive, and just try not to give up. Someone somewhere might be able to help you, and just don't give up. You might find someone that can help.
And keep praying.
Definitely. Prayer is important. Have faith, you know, be positive.
So Jessica, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us, and stay strong for husband Javian, for Jada, and for Jasmine, and for yourself. All right? You're strong. All right, thanks. Life is filled with challenges, but hold on to hope. We want to thank Jessica for sharing with us. Join us next week for another Alric Show.
The Alric Show.